Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. At Chodesh Tov, we began the month of Kislev yesterday, a month that contains Chanukah. May our light only increase. So I asked us to reflect on our week, and many of you, I'm sure you're all aware that the G20 summit kicked off today in Johannesburg, and some of you may have been at Sea Point today for the protest in solidarity against gender-based violence. And the good news that the first demand that came out of that protest, which was that gender-based violence be declared a national disaster, was accepted by President Ramaphosa today at the G20 summit. Given how much talk has happened over the years about ending gender-based violence, to see that action like this has happened is encouraging, but there is so much work still to do in that regard. And so it's inspiring to open up our Torah portion this week, Toldot, and to meet Rebecca, who we met last week in the negotiations between Avram's servant, called Eliezer, and Rebecca's family. And there's a glimpse already in those negotiations, which usually would take place male to male, where the family turns to Rivka and says, "Will you go?" And she says, "Elech," I will go. An echo of Lech Lecha. Spoke about that last week. Signaling to us that just like in each of the three generations of our patriarchs and matriarchs, there are very different strengths in those couples. Avram and Sarah, who we come to know over those 3.5 Torah portions, and now we're meeting Yitzchak and Rivka. Rivka has that moment at the beginning of the Torah portion where struggling to become pregnant, she inquires of God. She makes a direct entreaty and is answered, is responded to, eventually getting pregnant, having the complicated birth of Esav and Yaakov. And at the end of our Torah portion, like bookends of this parsha, we see Rivka moving the chess pieces on her family's board to enable Esav to be out when Yaakov can receive the blessing from Yitzchak. So we have, with the news today of this national emergency that's been declared, national disaster, we have this emblem of this powerful matriarch, this woman who is a leader not just of her generation, but of the patriarchs and matriarchs, in taking initiative. Sometimes those initiatives are ones that we might want to have a conversation with her and wrestle to understand, but there's no question that she is a woman with great strength and great power and great intention, who sets the agenda for her family. And alongside her is possibly the most interesting of the patriarchs and matriarchs, and that is Yitzchak. And most of what we know about Isaac is what happens to him. Not so much what he does, but what happens to him. Of course, the most well-known being the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, the traumatic incident that he was nearly sacrificed. And of course, at the end of this Torah portion, he is the duped, blind old father who doesn't even know which son it is that he's blessing. He's deceived. And yet, if we didn't look carefully, we would miss in the middle of the parsha a moment that Isaac takes action. It's a moment that Yitzchak does something that you might wonder why that's significant at all. There are some wells that Abraham dug that Yitzchak goes, because they'd been filled up, Yitzchak goes and redigs those wells. Okay, he dug a couple of wells. What's significant about that? Well, there's a few things that are significant there. One is that they are the wells of his father, Abraham, that had become blocked. And if we think about that in psychological terms, what might it mean to go and dig into the wells of our parents? What might it be when we explore what became blocked in our parents' generations that we might need to open up for ourselves? It makes us think that maybe Yitzchak was not just digging in the ground, but he was digging into himself. A complex person and maybe a complex action. Bless you. So, how can we understand this? How can we understand these wells? Wells are a symbol of water. Water is the symbol of life. Without water, we have no life. Mayim Chayim is the requirement, living waters, for the halachic status of a mikveh, the transitions and purifications that we do in Jewish life. And here we see Yitzchak digging down to find the water that was blocked in the time of his parents. I've been off planet this week, doing a fascinating and demanding mediation course online from my bedroom on Zoom. I've been tuning into a company called Mediation in Motion that with the generous help of the synagogue, I've been doing a course for 5 days on mediation. And I could talk for hours about the experience. It's been a very draining one and unexpected. But maybe a couple of things that I learned. One was that this course, which is a family-run business, advocates, the Nelson family, incredible people who have a very clear methodology to mediation. 22 people in a Zoom room, all of whom, except for the rabbi and the school teacher, are advocates or lawyers, makes for quite a daunting week. And from 7:45 till 6 p.m. every day, doing role plays, enacting through this methodology and having someone critting you and coaching you from the side. And then today, a recorded examination that goes to UCT to be adjudicated to see if I even got the certificate at the end of the week. It's been a week, and I'm quite shattered. I really feel like I've come from off planet. But what stood out for me today when people were feeding back was almost without fail, every single advocate that was on this course said, my eyes were opened this week because I instinctively protect my client by going to litigation. And I never thought that mediation was something that was ever successful. I thought it was, why bother? And having seen what happened this week, each one of them said, I can't believe that I didn't know this before. Some of these are young advocates. Some of these are advocates who have spent 20 or 30 years in their profession. And they had never considered mediation as something serious to offer to their clients before. And what I thought on my way to shul is, what would it have been like if Yitzchak and Rivka had been able to sit in mediation? What would it have been like if Avram and Yitzchak had been able to sit in mediation? What would it have been like if Jacob and Esau had been able to sit in mediation? If the tools that we have today of psychology, mediation, this sophisticated knowledge that we have of dynamics of relationship, if those had been available to our ancestors, would we have a different Torah? Would Judaism look different today? Would the world look different today? One of the things that we were taught to look for is called a dignity violation. These tutors teach that if you, and this is how I've always mediated in the past, if you try and look initially at solutions, speak to party A, find out what they're looking for. Speak to party B, find out what they're looking for. See if you can compromise. Give up a little bit here, give up a little bit there. Make a compromise, shake hands, off you go. Isn't that mediation? No. According to this methodology, the first thing that you have to find out is why they're upset. In the description, your brain is on fire. You can't negotiate well when your brain is on fire. The first job of the mediator is to put out that fire, calm everybody down, and try and find out what was the dignity violation. And once you've found that, because they won't tell you that right up front, once you've found that, you then need to find out what they need in order for that to be taken care of. And only then does the real negotiation begin. Then you can start to dig around for solutions. And they said that if you don't do that, even if you come to an agreement, that agreement will be broken and people will be back in mediation or they'll be going to court. How often do we withdraw within ourselves in a conflict because our dignity has been violated, because the other person said something, because they did something that for us is unacceptable. And because of that, we have taken an action, either withdrawing or an aggressive action. And there wasn't a mediator to step in and say, let's find out what that was. Let's see if we can take care of it. I was impressed by the wells that have been dug in the last 10 or 15 years in the legal profession to learn from psychology, to learn from what's possible in mediation, to be able to resolve conflicts. And I thought that not only can I apply that in my rabbinic life, but I can apply that in my personal life too, when there are conflicts. Don't stay on the anger and don't jump to solutions. See if you can put out the fire first. So I want to bless us this Shabbos of Toldot, that we can have the strength of Rivka, and we can have the patience of Yitzchak to go and dig back into our past, to find where that conflict has arisen, to try and unpack and unblock the hurt of the past. And that with love and patience, we will be able to open up the flow of water, the Maim Chayim, that we need in order to thrive in our personal, in our business, in our community lives. May this be God's will. May this be our courage and patience. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Good Shabbos.